Okay, I want to talk a little bit more about this idea of open relationships and stuff. And though I think my arguments are pretty much against the viability of open relationships, I mean, that doesn't really mean I'm arguing against them per se. I mean, I'm just saying here's the problems, here's where the stresses happen. If you're going to make it work, so if you're still motivated to try an open relationship, but you think my points are valid, then they just sort of point to where you ought to do some kind of, well, engineering, some sort of prepared, intentional reinforcement of those stress points. Um, Jealousy is a natural thing, and people that do practice polyamory, have a lot to say about how to deal with that. For example, I've seen people suggest that as soon as you're attracted to someone, even a little, whether you're going to do anything about it or not, you mention that to your partner, so people are involved with what's going on. So these are ways to address the problems. Now, one thing I want to talk about, and this is maybe all wrapped up in sociology, the way that we happen to be just because of our social environment and training, um, individual psychology, different people are different, so that wouldn't apply to everybody, and so on. But I think one interesting thing here is the differences between the way men and women try to find, you know, romantic partners, both sexual partners and partners, for long-term romantic partnerships. And the thing is, I think that, and this is the part that might be sociological, but I think that in a practical sense, just my practical experience, um, this is true. Men are expected to make the first move. Women are being pursued so a lot, so they can sit back more and just allow things to happen. This creates a fundamental difference that affects an open relationship. Let's say you're in an open relationship with somebody else. They're interested too. In other words, it's working out emotionally because you both, let's just assume, have some sense of partnership. You're there for each other, and you enjoy being there in each other's lives, and so you're open because you just want to allow people to have both romance and sex with other people, and both partners feel that way and they both benefit. And so let's just say that they're both going to do this at the same kind of rate. They're going to meet someone, doesn't matter what time period I choose, but they're going to meet someone every month or something. And the difference here to me is that I think for women, they can just be totally devoted to their partner, turning guys down, not pursuing anyone else, but just considering themselves to be open to it. So when they see a spark or something in someone that is interesting to them, they're allowed to pursue that. And if their taste for that is to about once a month or once every 6 months or whatever it is to experience these other people, then they can pretty much in short notice do no active pursuing of men, and the men, as they come to them, sometimes they can just say yeah and accept that. But the man in that situation, if he's going to do that once a month, he's going to have to be approaching people, women, regularly. He's going to have to be pursuing a lot of women. He's going to have to be willing to be rejected by several women. Even women that might want him, but finding out that they're in relationships or whatever. He's going to have to do this constantly. If he's going to, go beyond the bounds of his monogamous relationship once a month, then he's going to have to try all month, and it's going to happen when one of the people he's pursuing yields and goes along with it. Now, that might sound a little sexist. It sounds a little sexist to me, but I'm just trying to be practical and realistic in how I think this works right now for people right now. And it seems to me to be true. And so that leaves the situation, whereas a woman can sort of think, well, I'm just devoted all the time, and every once in a while I say, okay, and it's very limited. It can be very limited because they're turning that on and off by the energy is coming in from men all the time, and they turn on when they're going to accept it. Whereas the men have to be putting the energy out all the time. And if you're just going to have a partner every couple of months or something, and you're only even going to think about that once every couple months, do you as the woman realize and want to have a guy that's having to think about it and pursue it all the time to to sort of get the same rate of exploration that you as a woman would get by you know, just letting it come to you. And this comes from my experiences of talking about this kind of stuff with women a lot. And a lot of women have this kind of perspective. They think that they can limit it. They're multiple kind of having multiple partners because basically, you know, they can go out, be pursued, and just accept it. And from their point of view, things are just happening, whereas men are having to make them happen, make these things happen. I don't mean manipulatively, but they're having to put themselves out there. They have to go out there and ask and risk being rejected. And men that want to get with women learn that and learn how not for that not to be a big deal. But there's still this different dynamic because the man's having to try this and go pursue, and the woman is just able to more or less be accepting. And I think this is one of the things that creates a tension. It's very hard to balance, even if everything else is assumed to be balanced, like the sexual desires and stuff, because you have other issues of where people's sexual desires are different and their ways of getting with other people, and how easy it is for them. They're different, and so probably a bigger problem is that those differences don't match. That you have an open relationship, and one person wants to explore beyond the relationship more often than the other, and that's a whole different set of problems. But even assuming balance in those problems, there's an area of tension of that a man and a woman in a partnership both going beyond the relationship at the same kind of frequency would still have this imbalance in how often and how hard they're kind of having to work on that. A man would have to be working on that and pursuing it a lot more. So that's just another detail of this. And I definitely always like feedback on all of the videos I make, but especially these ones because I do know that's all messed up in my emotions and when I was born and the pressures of society and all of these opinions. And it's hard, maybe impossible, to sort it all out. So, I say what I think, but I'm definitely want to be informed by other people. And if I say something that, well, that sounds sexist, especially, I'm like, well, give me feedback on that, perhaps. I'd be even eager to get a better idea about all this. I've changed my ideas over times a lot on these subjects, so I'm sure there's more of that to come, and I'm perfectly happy for people on YouTube to help inform me with their own experiences. It's a difficult area to deal with philosophically. I believe it's our responsibility as philosophers to try to do that and have philosophies of love and things like this, because it's such a strong part of life that if you ignore it, then I don't really see how you can be claiming to have a complete philosophy, having ignored something so fundamental to everyone and so key in understanding that their motivations in their lives. Cheers.